might be joining, but I think if you're comfortable with, we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
If you'd like to. Okay, well, great. I appreciate you reaching out to our office, and excited to chat here today. I guess it would be helpful for me to just kind of know, a little bit more about your background, and maybe that can kind of get us kicked off from there.
I have a huge background, so what exactly? So I have a doctorate in humanitarianism. I have several other certificates regarding, just helping people. I am an author as well, primarily focusing on the history of locks and the culture of locks, and locks being what some call dreadlocks, but it really is a spiritual vow, what historians would call the Nazarite vow. So I teach along those lines, and I'm a mom as well, right? And I have come across so many stories. Oh, I'm also running for president also, but mainstream media is not treating me very well. So many people don't know, but I'm not going to give up until it's the last day. But what I realize as a presidential candidate is that I'm allowed to create and implement the policies that the people that I represent wants to see changed, right? And I chose to represent the unrepresented. For some reason, people wouldn't really want to pay attention to the African American community, although one hand they say the vote is very valuable, but on the other hand, those things, it has just been a challenge to fix, right? So for the past 5 years, I started to teach myself law just to really try to understand what's the issue, like what's the missing piece, right? Because clearly we're not really getting it, and I realized that it was in the core of the Constitution, right? So the founding fathers, they created the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and all that to protect the minority against the tyranny of the majority, right? But there was never any protection for the majority against the tyranny of the minority. So the scales have always been tipped off, right? But it was not the responsibility of the party who created the laws that protect them to create those laws. It was the majority's responsibility. So when it clicked, I said, "Oh, that's it." So I started looking, and there's always been an acknowledgement of the majority party. It's just the framework was not created so that the wheels can start rolling, right? So it was like the majority party was just trying to force their way in to policies that was created to protect that particular group, right? So they're not wrong for that. So now how to fix that so we can be in harmony is to implement the legal frameworks that protects the other side, and then they can work in harmony together. And that's what I presented. Does that make sense?
No, that definitely makes sense. And I also appreciate you sharing your background, your personal background. I think that's always so helpful because, it's one thing to hear, legalese and, data to back up policy, but it's always important to hear, like, people's personal stories and, kind of how that led them to the work that they're doing. And I guess I wasn't aware that you were running for president, so, kudos to you. That's a sizable undertaking.
Thank you.
But, yeah, no, I mean, that definitely makes sense. I guess I'm curious from there, like, what are you looking for specifically from our office? Like, how can Senator Warnock's office be, helpful there? And like, what would be like kind of next steps from us, I guess is what I'm asking.
So in order to get so there's a U.S. Code Title 53 that's reserved. And in order for me to get those, I did go through the District Court of Columbia. Unfortunately, they're not exactly following the rules that are supposed to be there, right? But it's,
And that's for, you said that was Title 53?
yeah, U.S. Code Title 53 is reserved, it's vacant. So I would like, I know you have, I believe it was Title 4 where there's the freedmen and the civil rights, but I'd rather not use any of the tabs that's already been used, because I don't know what underlining articles or acts that been in there. I'd rather start completely fresh, and Title 53 gives that. And I think in the federal procedure codes, Title 35 is also reserved. So it just kind of, it could kind of flow, right? And so what I'm thinking of is we could go ahead and insert those legal frameworks in there, right? And we can adopt the codes that's already there. And then where there is any biases, those are the ones that we can go ahead and ratify and amend so that they can work in harmony with each other. I have to come through you guys' office because that's just how it's set up, that in order to introduce it to the Congress for them to just go ahead and pass it through, I have to come through you guys' office. I did push it through the District Court of Columbia, and he granted the intent to file, or I forgot what the terminology is, but I've been just building that framework in that court case. So it's really ready at this point. Technically, I have a default judgment, but I know there's a Anti-Deficiency Act that doesn't allow any governmental departments to get into like a contract agreement against their fiscal budget. So I'm assuming that he won't grant this order because of that, right? So I already contact the what's this department? The Congressional Budget Office. I already contact them and just kind of I let the anti-deficiency reps know, but no response. I let the president of the chief of procedures, I emailed him all the stuff, but no response. But I've emailed everybody I can think of, and that came up along the way, that hey, I know that your team can't really approve this, but I'm just letting you know it's coming, right? So you know what I mean? So it's no like blindsided situation, but your office really needs to help me get this pushed into the Title 53 so that there's some real weight. And then people who take that oath of office can honestly take that oath of office knowing that it is truly fair at this point, and it's not just a biased situation. And then you're challenged with unethical things, but you have to stand on that oath, you know?
No, definitely. And I think what would be helpful for me is if you could after this meeting send over that court case, that would be very helpful for us, so we could like look through that. You said the court case that you had in the district court. I think that would be really helpful for us.
I sent you the link to the website that has all the court, stateoflocknation.com. If you click on that tab, if you click on the tab and you see case 124 CV 00479 RC, it has all the uploads there.
Okay, yeah. For whatever reason, I guess didn't. Okay, I'm now seeing that. Yeah, I was on the website. I didn't see the. Okay, no, this is fairly comprehensive. Okay, good. We'll look through that. And then did you send over like what kind of materials were you sending over to like CBO, to the Congressional Budget Office? Because that would be good. You know, as we like think about this, that would be helpful.
I thought I CC'd you guys in it. I could forward it over, but what I sent was, of course, the vendor sheet for my pro se fees, and then I sent the UCC 1 filing of the everything that I'm mentioning. Oops, I just dropped that card. And then I sent a copy of the intent to file which is the file 47 of the court case, which it also includes the act where I have the Equal Access to Justice Act, where I can get the pro se fees, like attorney fees, which kind of gives me permission to get paid for doing the court case, because it costs a lot to do this by myself. So
it's the legal system can be expensive.
Mm-hmm. So those are the documents that I've sent thus far. I also sent 2 other cover sheets, but I didn't send the backup just yet. I just wanted them to set it up because I have to create the bank accounts for those. So I did invoice them 500 quadrillion though, and land, and I requested land withdrawal for 1.4 trillion people. So that should right the wrongs of the 500-year transatlantic slave trade. I think that technically is the settlement, because for the 500 years, the amount of wrongs that were done, that no country could afford that, right? However, I think that that's a fair amount to put people back in a proper position. And also, I am working on our own currency. That way we can introduce our own fiscal budgets to the GDPs, and it should fix your national deficit as well immediately. It should put you in a surplus, because what happened is, being that we're unrepresented, nobody's submitting those numbers, and your guys' numbers are coming off all the time because we have a whole community that's not being counted correctly. Right? So no matter how perfect your numbers are, without that missing piece, it would just never line up. So you have everybody like, where are these numbers not lining up? Why? Because we have a whole community sitting here that their numbers are just not being accurately recorded. So I bet you that's why we went so bad with COVID and not having the right enough supplies. How Social Security is like, where the money went, all of that happened because we've been unrepresented for so long. So those numbers never got plugged in the books. So this is gonna fix it all the way around.
I see. Okay, and then I know that you want to move that the legal framework there, right, like into the system. Is there any specific legislation that you have for us, or is it more so just working with the framework from the court case and everything else to make that?
There's several. So there's the Restitution Act, right, which grants this whole restitution process. There's a few acts. There's one that, with the blatant police activity, it will fall into our jurisdiction, right, to review those files, sort of like how FBI kicks in if the local police is out of their territory kind of situation. Hate crimes will be another act. Being that now we are considered a government, right? Then there shouldn't be any more KKK activities. It will be more like an insurrection type of activity that can be matched with the insurrection policies that's in place now, right? And then all the other titles that you guys have, it kind of could just match I for I, E for E, until there's something that's not, this is really discriminating. Then we could come back to the table and say, hey, everything was flowing, but when we got here, there was a gap here. How do we fix this? And how do we fix it where it works for the both of us? All right, cool. Now we could both implement it, and we both let our parties know, and then we're back to harmony again.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense to me. Well, I'm happy to look into this. I guess Annette's not going to be able to join, but she's back in Georgia right now, and I will reconvene with her and kind of, share out, kind of what I learned here. Any materials, I'll bring to her that case file, the 2-4 case file. I'll give that to her, and then if you want to, send us any additional materials or any additional thoughts, like, you're more than welcome to do so, and we'll look into that. But, I'll just kind of touch base with Annette as kind of next steps for this.
Okay. And who is Annette?
I'm sorry?
Who is Annette?
Oh, I'm sorry. Annette is like a legislative staffer in our office.
Cool. Okay, and do you kind of have a time frame on? Because I know they having a meeting September 16th and 17th, I believe, but something completely unrelated. Do you think that we could get on the calendar around that time?
Who has a meeting on September 16th?
I forget the two, but they were meeting in Congress for two other related topics to do their thing. They didn't have anything else scheduled, so I was wondering if we could probably get on the schedule since they're there, since they're planning to be there September 16th and 17th.
With your movement?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to talk to Annette when she gets back, but, always happy to reconnect.
Okay. So how do you, like in your summary of what we shared, like what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, I appreciate you, taking the time to meet with me, and I think that, like, hearing your personal advocacy on this issue is really important. I think that, I'll always say that, we're open to, reforms to the legal system that kind of make things more equitable, and I think that that's been a recurring theme in Senator Warnock's career and some of the things that he's, fought for, whether that was, as like an activist, as a, pastor, and now, working in the U.S. Senate. He's always, kind of broad strokes been passionate about making sure that, we've got a legal system, a system of representation, a criminal justice system that represent all people, especially people who haven't really had great representation or any representation for that matter. And so, we're always open to, considering proposals or looking into, ideas kind of along that vein. And so I'm just happy to dig more into, this work, and I'll say that, like, Annette is like kind of my senior, so I'll have to bring everything to her and chat there. But I'm always happy to, like, keep the conversation going.
Awesome. Okay, cool beans. And I'm available if you have questions. You could just shoot it over, and
Got your email and everything. So.
Yep. Cool beans.
Okay, perfect. It was really nice to meet you and hear a little bit about your story.
Thank you.
And
you too. Bye bye.
Okay.